I said, well, why didn't you just say who did it? Doing time for something you ain't do. He said, I took the rap for Kelsey, never wanted her to go to jail.
The artist known as Tory Lanez is currently recovering after being stabbed in prison. The attack occurred after the New York Post made contact with Megan Thee Stallion's team regarding an op-ed that I was working on with them, and Lanez was then stabbed days later. But his representatives claims that Megan's best friend, ex-best friend, Kelsey Harris, is the one responsible for the shooting.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all know my slogan. I don't know it all, but I know what I've been through. Now, before we get into this video, make sure you check us out on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Hookah Anonymous _. You guys been telling us to create one for the longest, so we recently created a community where we will upload videos that we can't share on YouTube due to their guidelines. We'll also be dropping the latest to there first, behind the scenes information that you wouldn't find anywhere else on our socials. So make sure you become a member, and after you do that, head over to our official Instagram page at Hookah Anonymous _ and follow us there. Now without further ado, let's get into what you guys came here to see. Now we started to do a video covering the whole Tory Lanez situation, in which now is coming out that he's pretty much innocent. And we all knew this, right? But for some reason, everybody decided to go against their common knowledge and common sense and just listen to all the lies that they were being told, no matter how much Meg Thee Stallion got caught up in her lies. Now, it's pretty interesting to watch what's actually going on right now, because if you've been paying attention to everybody that's been coming out and speaking on Tory Lanez, supposedly they all had information that could have had him avoiding jail time, but for some reason they just decided not to release the information. And what I mean by that is, they all had something that could have helped Tory Lanez out, and all had platforms big enough that could have helped. But at the time when it mattered the most, instead of speaking out, they watched the world attack Tory Lanez, making him seem like a liar when they knew the whole time that he wasn't lying. There was very few people that was actually speaking up for Tory Lanez and exposing the lies that we were told, including ourselves. However, we were just labeled conspiracy theorists. And I don't know what it is, but years later, now everybody's coming out the woodworks and telling you how they know that he was innocent at a time when everybody thought he was pretty much guilty. Now, Jason Lee came out 2 days ago and expressed that he has receipts and text messages from Tory Lanez himself, in which he says that Tory Lanez admitted to him that Kelsey is the one that shot Meg Thee Stallion, but he didn't want to snitch on Kelsey.
I said, how are you? How you been? He said, incredible, in very high spirits and preparing to physically come home this year. I said, when? I need to come in there and get an interview, LOL. He said, I can't say exact days, but I know I'll be home this year. I said, how long you been gone? I'm so confused by your case. He said, actually, I have a crazy plan when I get back that I think you should know and be a part of, because I'm only going to do one interview. And he said he's been gone 2.5 years. I said, I want to be a part of that plan. He said, it's honestly a bunch of suppressed evidence that was kept away from me during trial. I said, Wack told me that, but didn't say what. He said, like, through trial, they keep saying it was inconclusive on the gun DNA, but I always knew I never touched the gun, so I asked my lawyer to retest it, and sure enough, I was 102% excluded completely from everything, just like I said. I said, well, why didn't you just say who did it? Doing time for something you ain't do. He said, I took the rap for Kelsey, never wanted her to go to jail, and I never wanted Megan to get hurt or anything, so in me stopping her from getting shot, I got the raw deal. Crazy how life works, and to think they made me the poster boy for the unprotection of black women, when in all honesty, I protected 2 black women, one from getting shot and one from going to jail. Never said nothing in 8 to 10 years for them to live. It's a crazy place we live in. I said, but why you ain't just say that? When I got shot, I told. And he said, I lost my mother at 11 years old. I couldn't sleep with myself. I was the reason for taking a mother away from her kid. I just couldn't do it. Tory Lanez.
Now, don't get me wrong. Jason Lee is one of the guys that I can actually say have been advocating to free Tory Lanez, because he did feel that Meg Thee Stallion was lying.
Is Megan the problem?
Free Tory.
But why are you getting a restraining order against Tory? Didn't she just drop a whole documentary where she talked about Tory in the whole interview? Or Tory need to be in there fighting this case. You know, I'm not going to say whether I believe Tory shot her or not because I wasn't there. There are people that are saying that he didn't shoot her. Tory said he didn't shoot her. She said he did. She was probably drunk and don't remember. Megan has, from what I've heard from lots of people, an alcohol problem. I reported where she tried to fight Winnie Harlow at the party. That since then has been acknowledged at the Breakfast Club. They talked to people that were there that saw them. You know, people who have alcohol and drug addictions are in denial that they're the problem. I did this for years. I would say to Rob, I did not know I was the problem. Megan, you need to get help. Leave Tory alone.
However, I also feel he's one of the guys that were playing both sides because he was just trying to be political about it, where in some cases he would say he don't know if Tory Lanez did it or not, when in fact he really knew what was up. And the problem is a lot of people did exactly what he did. They heard the stories, they know something didn't sound right, they know that Meg got caught lying a bunch of times, but yet nobody came out and stood firm on backing Tory Lanez up when everybody was against him. And that's a problem because when you're staying silent and you know something ain't right, you're just as wrong for being quiet and not fighting for something that's right. Now, in the latest news involving Tory Lanez, Fox News reporter Gianno Caldwell says he spent 6 months investigating Tory Lanez's case and claims he was railroaded by ex-LA DA George Gascon. Popular blog Neighborhood Talks will post about it, and they would say, quote, Fox News commentator Gianno Caldwell revealed that Tory Lanez was recently stabbed while in custody following what he describes as a wrongful conviction led by former Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon. Caldwell also expressed gratitude to Drake for sharing the Free Tory petition with 140 million followers, helping to surpass 300,000 signatures as supporters call on Governor Gavin Newsom to intervene.
The artist known as Tory Lanez is currently recovering after being stabbed in prison. The attack occurred after the New York Post made contact with Megan Thee Stallion's team regarding the op-ed that I was working on with them, and Lanez was then stabbed days later. But his representatives claims that Megan's ex-best friend, Kelsey Harris, is the one responsible for the shooting. Now, I've been looking into this case for almost 6 months now. I immediately learned that George Gascon, the George Soros-funded prosecutor, railroaded Tory Lanez. And I've been actively working on a story. And this has been something that has been quite a movement. I did a petition with the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety at caldwellinstitute.org, where artists like Drake has encouraged his more than 140 million followers to sign this petition. We put it up on Wednesday. We're at almost 300,000 signatures today that advocate for the governor of California to intervene on this and pardon him, because I believe he was really railroaded.
Now here's my thing. Where was this energy when Tory Lanez was telling the world that he didn't do it the first time? Right? Why did it take years? Why did it take for him to go to jail? What was done differently that's making people want to investigate more now? What's going on that has everybody being Team Tory as if something different was put out there? Right? Everything that's being said now was said back before when everything first occurred. And then when we seen the whole court and the trial thing going on, that made it clear as day what was going on, because not only was Meg caught in a bunch of lies, but then you had Kelsey pleading the fifth to almost everything that could prove that Tory Lanez wasn't the shooter. Then to put the icing on the cake, the only witness that was there that was able to see everything said that Tory Lanez wasn't the one that fired the gun. So at that point, the case should have been done. However, with the eyewitness in Tory's favor and there being no type of gunshot residue on him or his fingerprints being on the actual weapon, he was still sentenced to prison. Crazy. Now, some people have been asking us to react to the new information that's been coming out about the case, but like I told them, it's nothing different from what we've been saying. It just seemed like the quote-unquote conspiracy theories are actually now true. So instead of reacting, we're going to repost a previous video we did covering the case that was pointing out certain things that didn't make sense from the beginning. Y'all check this throwback out. It says here, an intoxicated Tory Lanez allegedly shouted, quote, dance B-word before shooting at the feet of Meg Thee Stallion, according to testimony from LAPD Detective Ryan Stogner, who interviewed Meg after the incident. Now it says first witness in Tory Lanez preliminary hearing was LAPD officer Sandra Cabral. She responded to shots fired investigations. Says Megan was in a panic and frantic state of mind. It says firearm found under Lane's passenger seat was warm to the touch, suggesting the firearm had been used. Now it says we're outside the courtroom where Tory Lanez is set to have his preliminary hearing in his felony assault case alleging he shot Meg Thee Stallion in her feet after a party last year. Now it says trial is set for January 13th. Tory's facing one count of assault with a semi-automatic firearm in a manner that caused great bodily injury and one count of carrying a concealed unregistered weapon. Tory shot at the ground and fragments, listen to this, fragments hit Meg in the feet. While firing at the ground, Tory told Meg Thee Stallion to dance B-word. Meg Thee Stallion, all her stories kept changing because nobody was buying it. First she said Tory Lanez actually shot her in her foot as he was hanging outside the SUV, and then she turned around and said that he shot her in both of her feet. Then guess what? The surveillance footage or whatever, the video came out of her when the police came on the scene, and it showed her backing up on both of her feet, going backwards with her hands up. Now that quickly eliminated her story, because at the end of the day, we all know if you were shot in both of your feet, it's no way in hell you are going to be standing up, for one, and two, is no way in hell you're going to be walking backwards. Alright, then if y'all remember, she tried the whole situation where she went on Instagram Live and she was showing her feet, and you know, at first she wasn't showing her feet for a long time. Then she went on live. She had uploaded a picture as well on her Instagram. Then she quickly took it off when people were saying that it don't look like she got shot. Listen, it's so much going on within this story, y'all. I'm telling you, and I just hope y'all stay tuned so y'all can see the bull crap that they try to do to us, that they try to pull a wool over our eyes with these frivolous stories, man.
So as you can see, the case always been questionable and a bunch of things haven't made sense. Shout out to Miss KKX on Twitter, because she does a great job breaking down more than just the surface level information. We call out the things that don't make sense, but it's people like her that dive a little deeper and have guiding information pertaining to the doctors involved, medical records, deep analyzing of the body cam video where it shows Meg may have been throwing a bottle out the vehicle before stepping on the glass. Here's one of her tweets exposing Meg's blood loss during surgery, comparing the amount of blood they said was lost from a wound being equivalent to a teaspoon, which would be impossible for someone that got shot in their foot, right? The tweet would say, quote, according to Megan's seated Sinai surgical record from Dr. Milton Little, the total blood loss, EBL, during surgery where doctors removed the alleged bullet fragments from both feet was just 5 milliliters. That's a teaspoon of blood. Hashtag facts of the day. A basic bunion surgery usually causes around 30 to 100 milliliters of blood loss. Gunshot wounds to the foot, even low velocity ones, typically result in 100 to 500 plus milliliters, especially when soft tissue is involved. So how is it possible that someone could get shot in both feet, go into surgery to remove multiple bullet fragments, and only bleed the equivalent of 1 teaspoon? Hashtag free Tory Lanez, hashtag justice for Tory, hashtag Tory Lanez, hashtag innocent, hashtag free Tory. In another tweet, she would expose the time Meg claimed she was shot. However, she would be seen out walking with just a bandage on her foot just weeks after the shooting. Despite her claiming she had to learn how to walk on her foot again, this is also around the same time the video of her and Cardi dropped, and she was dancing and twerking as if nothing ever happened. Anyway, the tweet would say, quote, so you had a procedure to remove bullets from your feet, had the audacity to claim you had nerve damage, and had to learn to walk again. Plus, not to mention all the trauma you keep telling the world you went through. But you went to a strip club twerking just a couple of weeks later wearing just an ace bandage on 1 foot. Hashtag find whack. Now for y'all that don't remember how things were back then, let me refresh y'all memory. Right after being shot, Meg's first tweet considering the situation would be about black men not protecting black women. It will read, quote, "Black women are so unprotected and we hold so many things in to protect the feelings of others without considering our own. It might be funny to y'all on the internet and just another messy topic for you to talk about, but this is my real life and I'm real life hurt and traumatized." Now you see what she did there? She quickly made the situation about race when it indeed had nothing to even do with race, but yet she used that agenda to capture the empathy of others. And soon after that happened, of course it became a black woman versus black men topic, having nothing to do with what actually happened. However, of course, you will always have those who are gullible in feeding into the agenda, furthering the foolishness. Without knowing what was going on, Chance the Rapper would jump out the window and tweet, quote, "I hope Meg really gets justice for what Tory did to her, and that we can all learn from this how near and constant and serious the threat of lethal violence and abuse is for every black woman." Now, once again, this had nothing to do with black women. But then again, we know who Chance is connected to, so him doing that made sense when you look back at it due to his relationship with so-and-so and being related to their wife. Y'all figure the rest out. Now fast forward, when more in regard to the situation started coming out, people started realizing that something wasn't right, and Tory may have been telling the truth after all. They say the longer you allow someone to talk, the more they'll reveal about themselves. And in most cases, they start saying a little too much. After Meg done tweeted a whole bunch of tweets, Tory started telling his side but not saying exactly what went down. People began side-eyeing Meg. That's when she would post tweets saying, quote, "Y'all can't tell when ish is fake news? Y'all still don't see an abuser picking with me? The first court date got pushed back because of the inauguration, but I can't wait until the MF facts come out. B-word, you shot me, and my story not changing, and B-word, you going to jail. How the F I get shot? Now I'm the world's biggest MF villain. All y'all P add N-words and pick me add H-words, go and eat your MF words." Fast forward to today, it seemed like the only one eating their words now is Meg Thee Stallion. She's been very quiet though as of recently, but right now all the eyes are on her because clearly something isn't right. Now the Fox News reporter is claiming they did an investigation and realized that Tory was railroaded. So does that now mean that Meg can or should be behind bars for perjury? Or is anybody going to be penalized for the imprisonment of Tory Lanez knowing that he was innocent? Not to mention, remember they said that allegedly Kylie Jenner was supposed to be at court during the trial? Why was she never at the trial? Matter of fact, why didn't we ever get a story from her, period, being that it was her party and she was present when everything first kicked off? Why nobody ever pressed the issue of her side of the story? And now when you think about it, Tory Lanez coincidentally was attacked in jail right before all this news started coming out. Does him or the family receive a lawsuit or anything if it's found that he was wrongfully accused and in prison? I guess we'll just have to wait and see, man. Y'all jump in the comments, let me know what y'all think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'ma keep on dropping. And I'm out.